Well, hello everyone. Here, show you the a baptism story coloring right here. As you see right here is I went ahead and and colored in the details of from what I was like thinking about. Of course, in my mind. Of course, I got a photo too, but then of course on your hand too that with the photo that I went ahead and just thought about that yeah I go ahead and just draw out for what I can picture in my mind for what I can remember it was about that time it was over there at the Mid Rivers Chapel Church it was. And what you see right here is that I went ahead and drew is this right here. This will be a picture right here of me, and then of course it's like I say that the person who's like would say the backup pastor it was. The backup pastor, and if I can remember that a few of the person's names there that they would have it to where that I'm not sure if he exactly if he had long hair, but just the way I drew it that I went ahead and try drawing draw as like me, and of course the person who I was baptized with, and of course that with me that I the person who baptized me it was. And you see right here is I went ahead and drew is some of the details about part of the church it was that with the church that you had these doors right here that you had say the balcony that you had was the balcony, which I remember that we used to go up there a lot of times to when we would attend a Sunday service. It was at a church service that there would be say a balcony say that where you can go up there and sit down, and then of course it's like during the church service it was. And a lot of time you got these doors right here, but anyway that with the doors that they would like one or two of them led to like a back back area was that no one about. It's like whenever they did the plays a lot of times I can remember that they did quite a few plays it was. And then of course a few like that I can't believe in America. And then of course the other one was I think was talking about it's like the plays I can't remember all the names of the plays, but of course to describe them about whenever they would do like what you call like the Disney characters, and of course that they would have a few other one about it's like the Passion plays you talk about the crucifixion I say of Christ it was. But on the other hand to talk about it was like a baptism story is that right here is that I can remember that Sunday morning it was where we went up to the church it was that we were it's like attending the church service, and I can remember that exactly about most of the details about what I said, and on the other hand too that knowing about it's like that I can remember whenever my family and I arrived there at the church it was that I can remember that it's like the guy would say that hey you're late it was. I can remember that when we got there I think when we were I think about 20 minutes late something like that. We had to be there a certain time, and I can remember that they were telling you to go ahead and get dressed into your baptism gown as it was. And with the baptism gown that I think I wore see here I wore a t-shirt. I think I wore a t-shirt and then a pair of pants that of course they gave me. I think that they call them like what you call it's like a bathing jams or something like that, bathing jamas or something like that where you allow them to get wet because I can remember that they said that before the whole part about going up there and say and then of course going into the water, walking into the water it was that the water would be warm it was. And if I can remember right that somebody told me that a few people told me that about their baptism it was that like a few babies it was that they would it's like go get baptized, and they said that the water it's like knowing about the water was cold, and they said that the water would be warm, and I can remember that the water was a little bit warm. I'm like I can still remember walking into the water it was and knowing about that not really paying attention about how warm the water was, but just knowing about what the audience is like, knowing about it's like with with the people there, that of course that there was more than two people what I have drawn right here, that there was say some audience. You say you had some people down here, say I guess they call them the bleachers or something like that. It's like that they had some people about right here, standing right here. That I would say that during that church service, that was going on there, that there was at least 85 people there. There's at least 85 people there, and then say I go ahead and draw right here is like a person right here, as if they were to be standing right here. It's like a maybe playing a piano. It was. So you go ahead, it's like draw like a little organ right here. It's like a keyboard organ, but anyway, that you have right here is that you have like your people standing in about right here. It is maybe somebody. A lot of times you would see maybe somebody standing up to the microphone. It was. I can remember over there at the church, that was one thing that I really always wanted to do. Of course, was it's like think for whatever reason I may have mentioned before, is that with microphones, it was with microphones that want to walk up to them and then actually sing in them, and then knowing about it. It's like what would I think? It's like what would I be thinking about? More likely what I would be singing. It was more likely I could probably think about it. What would I probably be singing? I would probably be singing something like, it's like glory to you, like it's like glory to you, and is in the morning dew. The morning cue or whatever you call it. Other than that, it's like knowing about. It's like that, if they were to have me read like what you call it's like the singing subtitles, it's like for a certain song it was. But on the other hand too, that knowing about is that with the baptism story, that I can remember walking up, getting into the tub, say of water it was, and then of course you have right here is that they said the water would be warm, and I can remember walking up there, and then it would be like what you call like a gated place right here, and I can go ahead and see if I can draw that in there, just to kind of show everybody here about what I'm talking about, of course, but try to draw as much as I can just to describe what I'm talking about. But let's just say that there's like a gate, a gate right here to where that you have right here is a pool of water, and then it was made out of like real sturdy plastic, this gated area right here. And I can remember walking up there and being in the water. It was just like if you were taking a bath or shower. It was, and just knowing about that I can remember that I seen other people getting baptized there, and just thinking about that hey, whenever they duck you underwater, of course. The person even told me about what they would do, that they would hold up a handkerchief, say to your mouth it is, and then duck you underneath the water, and then pull you back up, and then say you'll be now and be accepted and saved as Christ as your Savior it is, and I can remember that going into up there and staying in front of all those people, and of course that I would say something. I can remember when I said, of course, is that knowing about the person was like, I would like to hear knowing for you to be baptized, young man, and I like to know is like would you have anything to say that you like before I proceed with the baptism? It's like, and I can remember that that whenever I first was up there, that I can remember that they would I would not even be talking half the time. I can just remember going into the water, and then just remember the feeling about being up there. It's like you're talking about the feeling about being on stage. It was is that during that time, of course, that I can remember that that's something that you always really wanted to do, is like what you call it's like being on a high tep. I guess if you call it high tep level, it is. It's like knowing about that used to always think that it's like from standing right here, sitting right here on the bleachers it was, and then knowing about that hey, that you see right here is that you had the people right here, and of course I was pretty young too. It's like if this was me right here, it's like that me and of course my family were about right here it was, and of course a few other church members it was, and And knowing about with me that I could probably think about to go from right here and then up there, and just knowing about, well, they don't want me up there. I'm not allowed to go up there. And of course, back then I would have been about 5'4" or something like that. I was pretty skinny, and of course pretty short also. And I think I must have been at least 14 whenever I was baptized. I think at least 13, 14, something like that. It's quite a bit long ago. I can still remember a little bit what I said too, and then of course you remember a little bit of the year. But on the other hand too, that knowing about is like the fact about that is talking about is about the baptism story, is knowing about that I used to always think that a lot of times that people probably say that you have to be baptized, of course, in order to be saved, in order to go to heaven. It is, but on the other hand too, that knowing about is that with me that that going up there, up on stage, and of course being baptized, it was like that was like what you call that certain moment it was. And I can probably say about between baptism and of course walking across stage during graduation, at my graduation ceremony it was. And just knowing about with me that for whatever reason I was not so nervous compared to whenever I was a kid it was. And but I can remember that the person had asked me, it's like, do you have anything to say you want to say to the audience? And I was like, Jesus is Lord. And I can remember that I was trying to say something, and then all of a sudden it was like that knowing about, well, try to cough it up now. But other than that, it's like if you have right here as me that knowing about is that people that will be looking at you. It's like with anybody else, you're probably thinking about that. People will be looking at you and be like, But other than that, it's like knowing about, well, get on with it. Okay, you're not going to say anything, but because I can remember that before this time, of course, before this time, I may have mentioned before that I was involved with the school plays, up there at the school. Of course, my school that I was going to at the time was right across the street from Mid Rivers Chapel Church. It was, and I can remember that a couple of times that kids there at the school that would go to those plays and stuff, and a lot of times that whenever they would laugh, a lot of times I keep thinking about that that they're going to look at me as stupid. They're not going to laugh about how the play goes. They're going to laugh about me, that maybe I'm not doing such good of a job it is. Maybe I'm just not doing a good job now, maybe talking about this more likely on my YouTube page. But on the other hand too, that knowing about, people probably thinking about is that with my artwork though, that one of the artworks is knowing about the people there at the church would usually say something like that, I'm pretty surprised, I'm pretty impressed with your artwork, Matt. And on the other hand too, that knowing about it's like that if you traced that or if you drew it or something like that. I can remember that people up there at the church would ask a lot of times about that. I used to always think that if there was any job that paid you just to do any type of artwork like that. But I know with me that I don't, for compared to what I have now, I could probably think about that. It's that more likely it would probably have to be based on the fact about knowing about other than abstract is talk about with detail right here. It's like you have right here. I went ahead and drew a picture because I can remember that this would be this window right here. That there was a window right here. It's like in the back of the church. It would shine, and of course it would be shining a little bit in green, and of course variety of colors. But on your hand too, to knowing about, I can remember whenever I walked up there, and then of course the they said it's like you talk about ducking you underwater, because I can remember whenever I was a kid, of course, that my parents can also probably remember that I was afraid of water. I was afraid a lot of times of water because I've had the experience of knowing about that it took me a while to even learn how to swim, because I can remember during that time that I had to have, if I can remember right, I think I had to wear floaties. I can remember that my parents had bought floaties for me to wear just to if I were to go swimming on a nice hot summer day it was. And maybe that can explain why to maybe that I didn't go swimming every summer, because people probably thinking about that, are you just afraid of the water, or maybe you just don't want to get out in the sun, and you don't want to get sunburned, whatever it is. But on the other hand too, that knowing about with me that a lot of outdoor activities I never really took interest. It's like talking about softball and kickball, or any other sports like that. I mainly a lot of times like spending time indoors, and of course working on drawings and stuff like that. But on the other hand too, that knowing about it, I can remember the day after I had gotten baptized, it was that I can remember going into the school and telling my teacher that that I had gotten baptized. It's like I had gotten baptized, of course, over the weekend, and I can remember that it's like that was like one of the rough days, because knowing about I remember walking into school, and then knowing about it was like after I got baptized, I used to always think that the kids up there at the school will be like hey, man, well, that's neat. It's like, well, what did you say? What did you do? Or something like that. And I really used to think that with the teacher, that'd be like that you want to share with the class about what you experienced, about what it was like going underneath the water and standing in front of all those people. It was because a lot of times with the teachers, that they would want you to write, a story. Write a story about what you experienced, about being on stage, and then of course about knowing about the events from the field trip or anything like that. Maybe it's like a few sentences, a few paragraphs and stuff like that. But on the other hand too, to talk about it's like Jesus is Lord, knowing about it's like how your expression was. It's like from whenever it's like you're talking about. It's like besides you say it was the passion, it was, and I would probably say about this, like making it just like in a short sentence, is knowing about is to think for who we are, is to think about who we are, and just knowing about what we can do. But on the other hand too, they're talking about the whole part about matter about getting baptized, is knowing about that was the church that my parents and my aunt or uncle, as to say, took me to, and they had a nice church service. It was, and I can remember there was a few plays and stuff. There was a few plays that were going on there at the church that I wanted to participate in, and apparently that they never got back to me, of course, about those either. But I guess that can maybe explain a little bit to where I got some of my drama talent from also, because it's knowing about that up there at the church, it was, besides the baptism, it was, and up there at the church they had what you call karaoke, and they had microphones and all that other stuff there. The more likely that especially with the microphone. With the microphone, it's something you can use so everybody can hear you. It's like something where you can scream on the top. Like oh, praise now, praise now. But other than that, it's like besides going crazy, it's talking about, it's like a baptism story. It's talking about, I can remember the year it happened, is like, of course, about what I said, and of course after they ducked me underwater, it was, and I can remember that is that parents, they took a photograph of it, and then knowing about with me that with my teacher though, that I can remember going up there to school, and then it was like that she used to seem like she got mad at me later on, and I can remember that for whatever reason she just started saying, it's like I told her about the baptism, and then she was gone at a meeting, if I can remember right. She was gone at a meeting that next day, and then of course went in the office and be like, hey, I was supposed to be in your class in about 30 minutes or so, and it's like, where? And then all of a sudden it's like went in the office, and it's like, well, wait here. She just pointed at the direction for I was like thinking about it. I wasn't sure if she was pointing at the door or if she was pointing at the chair, it was. And instead of waiting there in the office, I went back to the classroom, it was. And a lot of times the kids will be like this, like knowing about. It's like, you were not supposed to go back to the classroom. You were supposed to wait in the office for the teacher. But I can remember that went to the classroom, and then there was nobody there, no teacher there. And then the teacher, say by name of Frederick, it was that she by name Miss Frederick, and of course it was like that. Yeah, that I can remember that with Mrs. Frederick it was that of course she was, you see, that the teacher at the elementary school was that it was like that yeah, that with Mrs. Frederick, and then of course the other teachers I had there, that they went ahead and been like, hey, that you were supposed to wait in the office for me to come and get you instead of coming back to the classroom. It was. And in a lot of ways, I was like that she came back to the classroom, and then I can remember that she went back there and be like, hey, what are you doing? Well, and then we went back into the office and got on like, you were supposed to wait in the office until I got me. I was in a meeting, man, and then knowing about with me that I was like, I remember crying a little bit while I was there at the school. So it was like that, yeah, that after getting baptized, I thought maybe that they would treat me better. It was, but anyway, that knowing about was like between what you call like these stories about knowing about that the things that happen. It's like you say, you get, if you got married in the other day, and then all of a sudden it's like talking about that you find out that hey, that the state's foreclosing on your house, whatever it is, and knowing about that that it just seems like that you would think that this was supposed to be the happiest day that you can remember. But one happy day, one happy part of the day, of course, that I can remember, of course, about the event is talking about is that with me though, that being at a young age is knowing about the things that I was able to do, of course, during that time. It was as knowing about is that hey, that you walked up in front of all those people, and that knowing about that the person was like that. Any embarrassing time that you can maybe think of that may have occurred during that time, and I could probably thinking about whenever I was trying to talk, and just knowing about how nervous I was, not really thinking about the temperature of the water. If it was like what you call like, only 72 or so degrees, say in warmth, it was, as I guess they call it the sea, it's like for Celsius, or if it's Fahrenheit or whatever, that they say it's like so far as the temperature of the water. But on the other hand too, that knowing about that with me, that on the other hand too with me, that I can remember that I was afraid of the water a lot of times. The only time I can remember going underneath the water, of course, a lot of times I was mainly used to it if I were to be taking a bath at home or somewhere. But other than that, is knowing about it's like, if I were to maybe take a bath or a shower, or maybe to try out a product, so far as a new product, based on bathing products or whatever. Maybe if I were to try it in front of a group of 30 people or whatever you call it, I may more likely get nervous about that. But on here too, that I would suggest to anybody is to try not to be nervous and focus on the fact about what you were prepared to do, and of course about what your passion as far as what you can do. But on your hand too is talking about is like for a baptism story color.